Live happy and healthy, my brother. Live happy and healthy, my sister.
Good day and welcome to this edition of Healthier, Older and Happier. A natural experiment is a situation in which researchers allow events to unfold naturally without any form of intervention, and then afterwards they identify the matters of interest and explore what the naturally unfolding events reveal. During the Second World War, there was a lot of devastation in many regions of the world. In the United Kingdom in particular, as a bid to recover from the economic devastation that came in the wake of the Second World War, there were policies that included restriction of foods, clothes, and several other things. In particular, sweets and sugars were restricted post-World War II until September 1953. So researchers, several decades later, looked at the effects of restricting intake of sugar in two populations of people. The first population had 38,155 persons who were not able to access sugar freely from the time they were in their mother's wombs through birth for 2 to 3 years. The second group was another group of 22,028 persons whose mothers had free access to sugar from the time they were conceived to the 2 to 3 years after they were born. If we call the first group Group A and we call the second group Group B, in Group A, the mothers did not have as much sugar as they would have loved because sugar was rationed. In Group B, the mothers had as much sugar as they would like. What the researchers found out several decades later was that in the group whose mothers had restricted access to sugar, and by extension whose babies had less sugar from conception till a few years after they were born, the risk of developing type 2 diabetes was reduced by 35% compared to the other group, and the risk of developing hypertension was reduced by 20%. In that same group where exposure to sugar was restricted, the onset of diabetes was delayed by 4 years, and the onset of hypertension was delayed by 2 years. In the BMC Public Health Journal in January 2021, there is a publication that shows that about 184,000 deaths worldwide every year is attributable to consumption of excessive amounts of added sugar. We get sugar from the carbohydrates that we eat. These are called naturally occurring sugars. From the food, the fruits that contain carbohydrates. We also get naturally occurring sugars from some dairy products. These natural sugars, when taken in with appropriate amounts, are good for you because they don't come alone. They come with fiber, they come with vitamins, antioxidants, and other nutritious material that are good for your body. When you eat these foods, the sugar is released slowly and you have a sense of satiety, that is, you have a sense of fullness. This is different from the effects of processed sugars in your body. When you eat processed sugars, what you get, or simple sugars, what you get is a high, a good feel that most people who use sugars can identify with. And afterwards, there is a dip and a craving for more sugar. So apart from complex sugars which we get from naturally occurring foods, we also get sugar from buying refined sugar, honey, the sweet sugar sweetened beverages that we take, and the many hidden sugars in a lot of the seemingly unsugared sources of food that we use. For example, some tomato products, some drinks have things like fructose corn syrup, and all kinds of fancy names in which large amounts of sugar are hidden. Do we really need added sugar in our diet? The evidence-based answer is no. We really do not need to add external sources of sugar to our natural foods. Unfortunately, in spite of all that is known about the harm that sugar does to the body, globally, the sugar business is prospering. The consumption of sugar is not reducing. It may interest you to know that researchers at the University of California, San Francisco in 2016 uncovered a deliberately designed quote and unquote scientific publication that was released in 1967. I think it was published in the New England Journal of Medicine at that time. The purpose of that industry funded publication was to shift the attention of the world away from the harm that sugar was causing in terms of heart and blood vessel disease, and to instead heap the blame on cholesterol. Many of us are familiar with stories about cholesterol. That's not the subject for today. But the message for today is a lot of the harm that drives chronic diseases is actually the result of excessive amounts of added sugar in our diet. Type 2 diabetes is a leading example. Most of us are familiar with the name diabetes mellitus. There's type 1, there's type 2. Generally speaking, type 2 is the one that occurs later in life, and you don't usually need insulin until much later. The basic thing in diabetes is that the body is not able to handle the sugar that it is exposed to. So type 2 diabetes is one leading example of a chronic disease that is associated with eating excessive amounts of sugar. Another one is obesity. And what that simply means is that your body weight is by far in excess of what it should be if we were to go by your height. There is robust evidence that people who have excessive amounts of sugar added to their diet are more likely to die from heart disease than others. There's also something called fatty liver disease, and you don't have to be fat to have fatty liver disease. Indeed, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is largely due to eating excessive amounts of sugar, and what happens is that the functioning of that person's liver is negatively affected. Hypertension, it may surprise you to know, has been associated with eating excessive amounts of added sugar. So also is this group of disease called dyslipidemias. Some of you may be familiar with that name, but simply speaking, it is diseases that are associated with abnormal levels of different kinds of fat in the blood. And of course, it goes without saying that a lot of dental diseases, especially dental caries, decay of teeth, loss of teeth, are associated with excessive use of added sugars. So we have established, and it is scientifically established, that there is no need for added sugar in our diet. However, if we must, the World Health Organization's recommendation is that for women, we shouldn't take more than 6 teaspoons of added sugar in a day. For men, they shouldn't take more than 9 teaspoons of added sugar in a day. And for children, the maximum consumption of added sugar in a day should be between 3 and 7 teaspoons. Now let's take a look at our habits. That's your favorite can of soft drink actually contains about 10 teaspoons of added sugar. So just by taking that one can of your favorite soft drink, whether you are a man or a woman, you have already exceeded the recommended maximum limit for added sugar in a day. Add that to that slice of bread that you are probably taking with your favorite drink. That slice of bread contains about half a teaspoon of added sugar. Multiply that by the number of slices of bread that you may be taking, and add onto that tomato sauce or any other added condiment in which are hidden many fructose, sucrose laden source of sugars that you are eating. On top of that, think about the snack you will be taking at lunchtime with another one of your favorite drinks, and you can see how far away you are from the maximum amount of added sugar that you should be taking every day. I'll share my personal story about added sugars. Some years ago, I was in a country in a temperate part of the world, and it was winter. So in between reading, I used to just nibble on my favorite chocolate and drink a lot of my favorite soft drinks. Soon afterwards, about maybe 4 weeks after I got into that country, there was a hospital-wide health screening, and to my greatest surprise, my cholesterol levels that had been normal all my life of adult life up to that time had risen to over 450 milligram per deciliter. The person who saw my lipids was actually frightened, and I was alarmed. What did I do? I trashed all those chocolates, trashed those soft drinks, and began to walk every day, 42 blocks every single day in New York City. By the time I went for a recheck about 4 weeks later, my total cholesterol was back to normal. I have the results today. In spite of what people know about the harmful effects of sugar, for some reason, they don't care. It doesn't matter. Well, some people say something must kill somebody. Others want to stop, but they can't. Indeed, we have given it a psychedelic name. You know, I have a sweet tooth. Sugars work on the part of the brain that is associated with reward, a good feeling. And so when you take sugar, your brain tells you this is good for you, you need to have more of this. And so you reach out for the next source of added sugar. And on top of this, sugar and sugar sweetened products are aggressively marketed. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And so a lot of things are put out there that tell you this is good for you. You are missing out if you are not taking this. And so we are encouraged in our excessive added sugar eating habits. And so when we want to celebrate, we celebrate sugars, we celebrate sugar-laden foods, sugar-laden drinks. Indeed, for some people, happiness is about more sugar. So there are many other reasons why people are not motivated to take these kinds of messages seriously and cut down on their added sugar intake. The situation is particularly worrisome for children who, from in utero, from the time they are conceived, are exposed through what their mothers eat to large amounts of sugars that they don't need. And that's another story. I remember I fell into that category, and one of my babies was born largely overweight because of how much sugar I was consuming in pregnancy. And through their childhood, this sugar or overexposure to sugar just continues. And we find that Without intending to, we are actually setting up our children for chronic disease later in their lives. Does it therefore sound reasonable that you should take a look at how much sugar you are actually taking in your diet and how much sugar you are exposing your children and your grandchildren to? Would you want to consider listening again, reading again about the harms of added sugar in diet and get on a program to cut down on added sugar? Or is it that the pleasure you get from taking sugar is too so valuable to you that you can't exchange it for anything? Proverbs chapter 25 verse 27 says, "It is not good to eat much honey." And a famous quote says, "Knowing is not enough. We must apply what we know. Being willing is not enough. We must go beyond being willing to doing what we know is right." I'd like to leave you with this word without intending to scare you at all. The price for today's sweetness of added sugar may be the bitter reality of avoidable chronic disease in the future. I hope that this does not scare you. Instead, I hope that it strengthens you to take the decision that you have to take about cutting down on added sugar so that it doesn't cut you down. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's absolutely free. Also, please hit the notification bell so that you can stay updated on our latest videos. For more exclusive content, please go to aituaje.com, aituaja.com. You can also stay connected with us on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon. We'd love to hear from you. So please don't forget to share your feedback and your thoughts on this and any of our previous episodes. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.
Live happy and healthy, my brother. Live happy and healthy, my sister.